This is an example multiple choice question. It contains a question and a set of answer options. One or more answer options may be a correct answer. I have implemented a form to demonstrate capturing details of a multiple choice question. The question text is captured in the question input text element. I am typing the sample question here as find the value of the expression 2x plus 3 if x equal to 3. The answer options can be typed here. I am entering the first option as 5. Using the plus button, I am adding 4 multiple answer options having values as 7, 9, 11 and 12. Using the checkbox adjacent to 9, I am marking the respective answer option as correct answer. If we have added an answer option by mistake, then it is possible to remove an answer option. By clicking on the minus button adjacent to the answer option 11, we can see that the respective entry is removed. The data model of this form is displayed below as JSON text for the purpose to directly view how the data model changes. Notice that in this form, the number of form fields are not fixed and it can grow dynamically based on the number of answer options. FormArray of Reactive Form can be used to handle the dynamic nature of this form, which is what we will implement from the scratch in this video. During this video, I will provide instructions to pause the video at the right time, which will help you to complete this example along with me as I demonstrate. I have created a new Angular workspace named as Quiz for demonstrating the implementation of this example. I have opened the Quiz folder in Visual Studio Code. I have already launched the Angular application using ngServe command. Then in app.module.ts, I have included the Reactive Forms module under the Imports section. Pause the video here to create the Angular workspace named Quiz. Then open the folder in Visual Studio Code. Start the Angular application using ngServe command. Include the Reactive Forms module in app.module.ts and then proceed ahead. This is how the formGroup object for the multiple choice question form is going to be defined. The outermost formGroup represents the form. If you are not familiar with formGroup class, check the video titled formGroup in this course series. This formGroup contains 2 properties. The first property is for the question. The second one is for the answer options. The question is defined as a formControl with empty string as initial value. If you are not familiar with formControl class, check the video titled formControl in this course series. The options is defined as a formArray to represent multiple answer options of the question. If you are not familiar with formArray class, check the video titled formArray in this course series. Notice the inclusion of square brackets that represents the definition of formArray content as an array. Within the formArray, we have a formGroup object. FormArray class provides the flexibility to contain formControls, formGroups, and formArrays. For this example, we are going to have an array of formGroup objects within the formArray. Each formGroup object in the formArray would represent a single answer option. Each answer option contains a field to capture the answer option as text and the correct answer as checkbox. Hence, each formGroup object within the formArray will contain a formControl of name option and a formControl of name correct answer. The option formControl will be initialized as empty string. The correct answer will be initialized as false, as initially the correct answer is unknown and the checkbox should be unchecked. For this reason, it is initialized as false. When the form is initially displayed, there should be one blank answer option. Hence, we have included a formGroup object in the formArray to represent this blank entry. Hope this explains how the formGroup structure is organized for the multiple choice question form. I have already defined the formGroup in app.component.ts. Then to access the options formArray, I have included the get function. If you are not familiar with as keyword, check out the previous video in this course where casting and formControl class hierarchy is explained. Pause the video here to include the formGroup definition in app.component.ts. Include the get function to access the options formArray and then proceed ahead. In the HTML template, I have cleared the HTML content generated by Angular when a new workspace is created and included this HTML template content. After inclusion of this HTML template content, in the browser, we can see that this HTML template displays the page heading, input text element for question, and the submit button. If I type some content in the question input text element, we can see the data getting reflected in the form data. Let me now walk through the code implemented in the HTML template. In the first line, a page heading is included. In the next line, form tag is defined with formGroup directive pointing to the MCQ property of the component class. If you are not familiar with formGroup directive, check the respective video titled formGroup directive in this course series. Within the form tag, a div tag is included to display the label for question input text element. In the next line, within the div tag, an input text element is defined for the question input text element. Using formControlName directive, the input text element is linked to the question property of formGroup. If you are not familiar with formControlName directive, check the respective video titled formControlName directive in this course series. In the next line, submit button is defined within a div tag. After the form tag, a pre-tag is included to display the form data using value property of the MCQ FormGroup object. Pause the video here to include this HTML template content, check if the page works as demonstrated, and then proceed ahead. Now we will make some minor changes in the look and feel. The elements in the page are placed close to each other. The spacing above and below the elements can be slightly increased. This style definition on the div tag helps to increase the spacing. If we type a longer question in the question input text element, it may not be fully visible. This style definition helps to increase question input text element width. I have included these styles in app.component.css. I have not yet saved this file, hence the styles are not yet reflected in the page. I am now saving the file. After the page reload, we can see that spacing is applied between elements. The question input text element is getting extended till the end of the screen. Pause the video here to include these styles in app.component.css. Check if the user interface changes are displayed as demonstrated, then proceed ahead. I have included necessary code to display the answer options. we have a label for answer options, followed by column labels option and correct answer. Below that, we can see the form elements for the 3 answer options: input text elements for option, checkboxes for correct answer, and buttons for deletion. I will walk through the code to highlight the changes made. This section of HTML code helps to display the labels for answer options, option, and correct answer. This section of HTML code displays the form elements for the first answer option. This part of the HTML code is repeated 3 times to demonstrate the display of 3 answer options. Later, we will make this part of the code to dynamically display using formArray instead of repeating the code. These are the styles included in CSS to align the elements. I am removing these styles and saving the file. After the page reload, we can see that the elements are displayed one below the other. Hence, these styles are required to align the elements properly. I am reverting back the style changes and saving the file. Pause the video here to include the answer options by including this part of the HTML code in the HTML template and including these styles in app.component.css. This section of HTML code represents the display of form elements of the first answer option. I am going to retain this div tag and comment the div tags of the other 2 answer options. I would like to help you recollect some code from the example that we implemented earlier. In the hobbies example, we defined a form array for hobbies having 3 form controls. In the HTML template, to group the form controls of the hobbies, we defined an enclosing div tag with formArrayName directive pointing to the hobbies form array. The formArrayName directive helps to group the form controls within a form array. In a similar fashion, in the example that we are implementing now, we have a form array containing a form group for the first answer option. The form group for the first answer option in the HTML template is represented by this part of the code. So this part of the code should be enclosed within a div tag having the formArrayName directive. I am going to enclose this section of code with a div tag. I am including a new line before this section and including a div tag. Then selecting the entire div tag below and pressing the tab key to increase the indent. Next, I am going to cut the closing div tag and paste it after the bottom closing div tag. Now we have enclosed the first answer option form elements within a div tag, and we can now include the formArrayName directive in this div tag with value as options. Options is the name of the form array within the form group. I am saving the file. If the coding is implemented correctly, then it should not result in any compilation errors. With this div tag definition, we have linked this div tag with the options form array. Hope the explanation and coding helps you understand the reason why we are enclosing this div tag with formArrayName directive. Pause the video here, remove 2 of the answer option elements that I commented earlier, enclose the first answer option HTML code with a div tag, then include formArrayName directive with value as options. Ensure to include indentation for the inner div tag, then save the file, check if there are no compilation errors, and then proceed ahead. We have linked the form array with a div tag in the HTML template. Now we will link the form group within the form array in the HTML template. Again, I would like to show the hobbies example that we implemented using formArray. In the hobbies example, the formArray contained 3 form controls. Let us take the first formControl object. This was linked with this input text element that was defined within the formArrayName directive. The link was established using the formControlName directive using index number. If suppose the formArray contains a form group, then in the HTML template, we should use formGroupName directive in the place of formControlName. In the example that we are currently working, the formArray contains a form group. Hence, this form group needs to be linked using formGroupName directive. This div tag is what is going to enclose the form elements of the form group. Hence, this is the ideal place to include the formGroupName directive with index value as 0. Now, the input elements within this div tag can be linked to the form controls of the form group that is within the formArray. For the answer input text element, the formControlName directive can be included with value as option, which points to the form control having the name as option. I am making the first input text element to be in a separate line for having some clarity when viewing this code. Similarly, I am also making the other input checkbox element as well in a separate line. The correct answer checkbox element can also be included with formControlName directive with value as correct answer, which points to the form control having the name as correct answer. With these changes, we have successfully linked the first answer option form controls with the respective form control objects. Now, whatever typed in the answer option should reflect in the form data. I am going to save and check if it works as expected. After the page reload, if I type something in the first answer option input text element, we can see that it gets reflected in the form data. The correct answer value is currently false. When I select the checkbox, we can see that it changes to true. Pause the video here. Include the formGroupName directive with value as 0 in this div tag. Include formControlName directive with value as option in the answer input text element. Then include formControlName directive with value as correct answer for the input checkbox element. Then save the file and check if the changes in the option and correct answer fields gets reflected in the form data. We are currently displaying the form elements of the first answer option by directly specifying the index number 0 in the formGroupName directive. Instead of directly specifying the index number, we should dynamically display the answer options based on the number of items in the form array. This div tag encloses all the form elements of an answer option. If this div tag is repeated based on the number of items in the form array, then we can display the answer options dynamically. To repeat this div tag, I am including the ngFor directive. The value for this directive will be let option of options.controls. Here, options refer to the get function we earlier defined in the component class that returns the options formArray object. Then in the options formArray, we are accessing the controls property. By including controls property, we are accessing the form group objects of the formArray. The formGroupName directive with value as 0 is going to always display the first item in the form array. Let us now understand how to dynamically assign the respective index number. Let us look into the documentation of ngFor directive to understand how to get the index number. In the right hand side, let us go to the local variables subtopic. In this example code snippet, this is where the ngFor directive is defined. We can see that it contains three statements. The first statement provides the array and variable definition. Let us now look into the second statement, index as I. Here, index is the built-in value available in the ngForm directive which contains the current index number. The index value cannot be directly accessed, hence it is assigned to a variable named I using the as keyword. From the documentation below, we can understand about various other values available in the ngFor directive. Based on this understanding, I am going to copy this part of the code and paste it in our ngFor directive. Now the variable I can be used within this div tag to access the index, so I am changing the value of formGroupName directive with value from 0 to I, which makes it possible to dynamically assign the respective formGroup object from the formArray. This variable I is like a property available in component class. We already know that when data flows from component class to HTML template, then it should be defined with the property binding syntax. Hence, the formGroupName directive should be enclosed within the square brackets. With this, all necessary changes are completed to dynamically display the formArray items. I am saving the file. After the page reload, we can see the page looks as it is. The difference is that now the answer option form elements are displayed based on ngFor directive. To test if it is working correctly, I am going to include one more formGroup object within the formArray. In app.component.ts, I am copying the first formGroup object within the formArray, then including a comma after the first formGroup object and pasting the copied formGroup in the next line after the comma. Now we have two formGroup objects. After saving, it should display two answer options. I am saving the file. After the page reload, we can see that two answer options are shown. We can see how user interface gets dynamically modified just by adding a new item in the formArray. Hope this explanation helps to understand how to dynamically display form elements based on formArray. Pause the video here, include the ngFor definition in this div tag, enclose formGroupName within square brackets, change the formGroupName value from 0 to I. Then to test if it is working correctly, include one more formGroup object in the formArray, save both the files, check if form elements for two answer options are displayed, and then proceed ahead. Now that we have displayed the answer options dynamically, we will include an add button with which the user can add a new answer option. In the HTML template, before the submit button, I am including a div tag. Within the div tag, I am including the input element of type button. I am defining its value as plus and then including the click event pointing to add option function. This div tag within the input element includes the plus button before the submit button. In the component class, I am including the add option function. In this function, we need to implement the code that adds a new form group into the formArray. To get access to the formArray, I am including this .options. Here, options refers to the get function defined above, which returns the formArray. In the formArray, I am going to call the push function. The push function in formArray helps to dynamically add a new item in the end of the formArray. If I hover over the push function, we can see its documentation. For this function, we need to pass an object of abstract control class. I explained in the previous video that when we have abstract control, it can be used to represent the child class formControl or formGroup or formArray. In our example, we need to add a formGroup object with answer option elements. I am going to copy this section of code within the formArray that creates a new formGroup having the respective form controls. I am pasting the copied text as parameter of the push function. This part of the pasted code creates a new formGroup object which is passed as a parameter of the push function. With this, the coding necessary to add an option using a button is completed. I am saving both the files. After the page reload, we can see two answer options displayed as the formArray initially contains two formGroup objects. Below the answer options, we can see a plus button. I am clicking on this button. We can see a new answer option added. When this button is clicked, the add option function is called, in which the formArray is added with a new formGroup object using the push function. After the formGroup object is added, it gets immediately reflected in the screen by adding one more answer option entry. I can click this plus button multiple times to add as many answer options I need. Pause the video here, include this plus button definition in the HTML template. In the component class, include the add option function, then check if the plus button works as expected and then proceed ahead. If we look into the creation of formGroup object for answer option, it is defined in three places. We defined formGroup object creation in the formArray definition 2 times and in the add option function. Notice that while coding, we have missed to define the validator in the second formGroup object. Any change made in the formGroup structure has to be implemented in all these three places, and we might miss to include the changes everywhere. This can be avoided by having the formGroup object creation in a new function and using it wherever needed. I am defining a function named createAnswerGroup returning formGroup, and within this function I am including the return keyword. Then I am copying the first formGroup object and pasting it after the return keyword. Now, wherever a new formGroup object is required, then this function can be called. I am removing the formGroup object definitions in the formArray and replacing it with this dot createAnswerGroup. This will create one answer option in the formArray. If we want two answer options initially, then after comma, we can call the function again. I am copying the function call and pasting it. Then in the add option function, I am removing the new formGroup object creation and replacing it with the new function call. After these changes, I am saving the file. After the page reload, I am going to check if the page works as expected. I am typing something on the question, then typing something on the first answer option, then typing on the second answer option. Using add button, I am adding a new answer option and entering some data in it. We can see that the data gets reflected in the form below, and all the features implemented so far is working as expected. The key takeaway is to use a function to create the formGroup object so that we don't have to make the changes in multiple locations. Pause the video here, include this new function and use them within the formArray definition and add option function, then check if the features implemented so far is working as expected. I will now demonstrate how to implement deletion of an answer option. I have completed necessary coding to implement deletion. Let me walk through the code. In the web page, we can see that we have already displayed a button with minus symbol to delete the respective answer option. In the HTML template, this is the line where the delete button is defined. In this element, I have included the click event that points to a function named delete option passing parameter I. Here I is the variable we already defined in the ngFor directive to access the index number. This makes the delete option function to pass the index number of the respective delete button that is clicked. In the component class, the delete option function is defined over here. The passed index number from the HTML template is defined with parameter name as index with data type as number. In the function body, the expression this.options accesses the form array. Then the remove at function available in the form array is called passing the index number, which removes the respective form array item available in the respective index number. This line removes the respective form group object from the form array based on the index number. Let us now check how this works. In the web page, I have already added 4 answer options. Let me click on the delete button for the third answer option and we can see that the respective answer option is removed. Pause the video here, include the click event in the delete button, then include the respective function in the component class and check if deletion works as expected. I will now demonstrate how to access the formControl object of the answer option text in the HTML template. To access the formControl object, I have included this pre-tag that displays properties of the formControl of the answer option text element. In this pre-tag, the first line contains the code to access the valid property, and this is where the valid property is printed in the page, just below the respective text element. We can see that it is repeated for each answer option text element. The touched and dirty properties are included in the subsequent lines in the HTML template, and we can see it displayed below the respective element. This interpolation definition displays the valid property. Let us have a closer look into the expression in the interpolation. The option here represents the option property defined in the ngFor directive. It represents each form group object from the form array. We already know about the get function available in the form group object, which can be used to access formControl object within the form group based on its name. Here we are passing option as value for the get function. In the component class, this option refers to the name of the respective formControl object in the form group. We also know that the get function may return a null, hence non-null assertion operator is used here. In a similar fashion, the touched and dirty property is displayed in the next line. To access the respective formControl object, there are many other ways to implement. This is one of the ways that I have demonstrated using the get function. Now we will verify if it works correctly. In the component class, we can see that mandatory field validation is defined for the formControl, hence valid property is false. The properties touched and dirty is also false since it is not yet accessed or modified. If I click within the first answer option text element and click outside, we can see that touched is changed to true. If I type a character within the answer option, then valid becomes true and dirty becomes true. This clearly demonstrates that we are able to access the respective formControl object and its properties. Notice that all these changes are reflected only on the properties of the first element and not on the second element, which means that we are able to successfully access the respective formControl properties. Now, with having access to these properties, you should be able to implement validation on the answer option text element. If you are not familiar with validation, then check the relevant videos in template-driven form section and reactive form section. Hope this video helped you understand how formArray combined with formGroup and formControl helps to implement complex form features.